If children were brought into the world by an act of pure reason alone, would the human race continue to exist? Would not a man rather have so much sympathy with the coming generation as to spare it the burden of existence, or at any rate not take it upon himself to impose that burden upon it in cold blood? This is the essence of antinatalism, the philosophical belief that assigns a negative value to birth. Antinatalists hold that having children is morally wrong and should be avoided. The core of their argument is that existence itself has a negative value. In other words, it is better not to exist at all. If non-existence is preferable to existence, it follows that creating new life is morally wrong, as it condemns another being to a life of suffering. This video is not about anti-natalism in general, but specifically examines Schopenhauer's position on the issue. There is a common misconception regarding Schopenhauer's views on procreation. Some believe that Schopenhauer was not a complete anti-natalist, with one philosophy magazine even calling him a proto-antinatalist. While it's true that Schopenhauer directly influenced philosophers famously associated with anti-natalism, this video argues that Schopenhauer was indeed a full-fledged anti-natalist, even if the term did not exist in his time. Anti-natalism consists of two main components. First, the belief that existence has a negative value, and second, the conviction that having children is morally wrong. Regarding Schopenhauer, there is consensus that he adhered to the first belief, as it is the basis for his philosophical pessimism. The contention lies in whether he believed in the second idea, the ethical conviction that having children is wrong. Doubts arise because Schopenhauer never explicitly stated that having children is wrong, and because he expressed a desire for children and a family at one point in his life. However, we argue that Schopenhauer did believe that having children is morally wrong, fitting the definition of an antinatalist. This requires reading between the lines of his work. First argument, the origin of suffering. To understand why the world is a hell according to Schopenhauer, recall his main work, The World as Will and Representation. The world appears to us both as will and representation, with the will being undifferentiated in time and space, meaning there is no multiplicity in the will. The tension between the fundamental unity of the will and the inevitable multiplicity of representation causes all suffering. Through the principium individuationis, we are fooled into thinking we are different instead of the same, leading to conflict and suffering. Given this worldview, having children is a great evil because it creates more division in the fundamental unity of the will, directly contributing to the world's suffering. By creating new life, we introduce new elements of division and become accomplices in the world's suffering. So, to combat this great evil, we should not have children. Second argument, asceticism. Schopenhauer also recommends sexual abstinence as part of his ethical call for asceticism, or the denial of the will to live. Voluntary and complete chastity is the first step in asceticism, which obviously precludes having children. Schopenhauer acknowledged that living an ascetic lifestyle, embracing intentional poverty, long fasts, and complete chastity was too difficult for most people. For the majority, he advocated an ethics based on compassion. However, in an ideal world, Schopenhauer envisioned everyone as saints and sages. Just because he realized this ideal is too hard for most to attain doesn't mean he didn't recommend it. He was making a practical, not an ethical concession. Many people are more familiar with Schopenhauer's essays than his main philosophy, leading to the myth that Schopenhauer, while assigning a negative value to existence, did not explicitly condemn procreation. This video aims to dispel that myth. We've presented two arguments supporting our position. First, the metaphysical one, where creating new life exacerbates the individuation of the will, and second, the ethical prescription of chastity found in his main philosophical work. Maybe the best thing you can do for your children is not to give them birth. But in the end, it is a choice some of us have to make at some point in our lives.